All right, inshallah, we're going to continue here in the Lucid Word. The author says, Section 14, clarifying additional conditions of prayer. So additional because some have been mentioned already. Which ones have been mentioned already? So go back and look for them. Yani, that's a study for you. Go back to the top of the chapter of purification and prayers. Then get all the way down here where it says additional conditions of prayer. See how many conditions did you find by the time you got here, so that now here's more conditions under their own heading. Among the conditions of the valid prayer are to direct oneself towards the Qiblah, i.e., the structure of the Kaaba, yani its building, or the space extending from the Kaaba in length, upward to the seventh heaven and downward to the seventh earth. Yes. So if you're in an airplane, how do you face Qiblah? Same way you would face it if you were in a skyscraper. Same judgment. So in both of those cases, what are you doing? You are facing the air over. You're directing yourself, that is, towards the air over the Kaaba. Now, not considering whether the earth is round or sphere or there's a big ocean in between. The point here is, are you praying on the ground or are you praying in the air? So if you're praying in the air, then you're going to estimate now that you're facing what's over the Kaaba. You're facing the air over the Kaaba. And if you're under the ground, then you're going to reckon that you're facing the ground under the Kaaba. Like that. So if you're in an airplane, that's like praying. Praying in an airplane is like praying in a skyscraper? Yes. How's that? By being in the air. But isn't the airplane moving? Skyscraper's not moving. Yeah, that's true. So praying in an airplane is also like praying on a train or praying on a ship, a boat. Same judgment. Except if you're praying on the train, for example, and it's like you're praying on the ground. Etc. This is done by directing the chest towards it when standing or sitting. And directing most of the body towards it in ruku' and sujood. Now, so how do you face Qiblah? By directing your chest towards it if you're standing or sitting. If you're not standing or sitting, then directing most of your body towards it. Yani in ruku' and sujood. And here, what is Qiblah? What does this word mean? Qiblah is the name of something that you face. If you have muqabala with something, muqabala means being opposite to or across from or counterposition from. So something like that, that's your Qiblah. So you said what's most of the body? Subhanallah. I didn't hear a definition. but one might say it's self-evident. Yani, or maybe what I want to say now helps you further. If I didn't really get the gist of your question, then what do you have to face? Do you have to face? Yeah, it says mentions the chest and mentions most of the body. Yeah, that's clear. But yani, because most of the body, I find it self-evident personally, because it's most of your body. So that means not a little bit of your body. It's because you have a body and you're facing something. So you're facing with not some of your body or a little bit of your body. So maybe what I want to say right now is going to be more clear for you. Because what do you have to face? It says here, the structure of the Kaaba. Yes, that's strong saying in Shafi'i school. And other schools said you have to face the direction of the Kaaba. And that's weaker saying in Shafi'i school. I don't know if it's weak saying, but it's not the stronger saying. But here someone might misunderstand something, because those two are very close, even if they're not exactly the same thing. But some people make them far. The difference between facing the direction of the Kaaba and facing the building of the Kaaba. So you can take one scenario and you can apply both of those sayings to this one scenario. And this will help you see how close they are. Which was that there was a time when the Muslims were facing Jerusalem in Medina. Then the command came to turn back towards the Kaaba. Some people got that news while they were actually in the prayer. So while they were in their prayer, without invalidating their prayers, without interrupting their prayers, they turned towards the Kaaba. So here's the question. Did they turn towards the building of the Kaaba, or did they turn towards the direction of the Kaaba? So both, each one who says this way says that's what they did. There's two parties here. Each party says this is what they did. They turned towards the building of the Kaaba. The other ones, they said they turned towards the direction of the Kaaba. Are those still close though? Yes. Why? Because in both cases, there's something that they agreed on, which was the best that they could. The best that they could. So if they face the direction, then they faced the best that they could. And if they faced the building, then they did the best that they could in facing the building. So if you're going to do the best that you can, and your directive is to face most of your body, if you're not standing or sitting, then then you're not going to be confused how to do that. Because if you think you're not facing most of your body, you're going to turn. So that you think, at least be confident that you're facing most of your body. I hope that helps you. While we're here, Do you have to face the direction or do you have to face the building? He says, so which one is stronger, facing the direction or the building? Because if I'm off by 1 degree, I would completely miss it. You missed the important statement that I said is the important statement. So before I answer this question, you have to tell me what's the important statement. Then if you told me that, maybe I don't have to tell you the answer to your question. I'll give you a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, to the best that they could. But that's what now I'm going to explain, inshallah ta'ala. So, do you have to face the building or do you have to face the direction? So there's two parties. Shafi'i school says, according to stronger saying, you have to face the building. So we're going to focus here. Okay, you have to face the building. Now, you have to face the building. How do you do that? Well, either you can see it or you can't. See how easy our religion is? That's how those rules go. You have to be able to think straightforwardly. And then you'll understand the religion. Okay, so how are you going to do that? Either you can see it or you can't. Okay, so if you see it, then you have to face it by what you see, which is going to be called knowledge. So you're going to face it by knowledge. Okay. If you're far from it, you can't see it. True, usually, yani, under normal case. All right, so then, if you can't see it because you're too far to see it, then you still have to face the building, or it's enough to face the direction? Here, the Shafi'is have different saying. Two sayings in Shafi'i school. Some said, also the one who's far has to face the building. That's his obligation. Far here means you don't see it. That's enough to just say far. Because it doesn't matter how far you are. That's where people who face the wrong direction also. Distance doesn't matter. Once you can't see the Kaaba, then there's a rule. There's a rule when you can see the Kaaba. There's a rule when you can't see the Kaaba. And distance is not something that goes in there. So, if you're far and you can't see the Kaaba, then you have to face the building still or the direction. Some of the Shafi'i said the building still. Some of them said the direction is enough. So now we're going to take the first saying. You have to face the building still, even though you can't see it. That's what I'm teaching you today. So that's my answer is going to be for you. You have to face the building still, even if you can't see it. So how are you going to do that? According to your greatest confidence. That's your obligation. That not more. You don't have to do more than that. So when someone asks me, which degree do you face on the compass? Me, I don't have a degree that I face on the compass. Just, I face the east and turn a little bit to the right till I'm sure, until I'm confident I shouldn't turn right anymore because I know it's not far. For me, that's the best I can do because I didn't find one degree more convincing than another one. And I don't know how someone else did too. But maybe he knows. I don't know it though. He said, how would you face the building without the direction and the direction without the building? Isn't that the same thing in the end? No, not necessarily. Because direction might have its own implication. Each one has its own mafhum. Each one has its own meaning, actually. If you wanted to, let's say, if one wanted to nitpick, then each one has its own implication. So, yeah, the Shafi'is are saying trying to face the direction is not enough. You have to actually try to face the building. طيب. Any question here? So I'll remind you of 4 steps. There's 4 steps for Qiblah. If you see it, then you face it by your knowledge. That's step 1. Step 2. Who can tell me? What's step 2? Five, 4, 3, 2.
Follow the one, if you can't see it, then follow the one that sees it.
Correct. The one who sees it. That's correct. To take the word of the one who sees it. Correct answer. Many of you gave correct answer. Barakallahu feekum. All right. Step 3 then is what? Five, 4.
Say it again.
Step 3 is what? Ijtihad, correct. So you don't see it, you don't have someone who sees it telling you, so then you make your own determination by the Qiblah proofs. Yes, correct. According to the religiously valid methods, by the Qiblah proofs. Not by anything you want to. Yes, by the Qiblah proofs. When we say make ijtihad, that means by the Qiblah proofs, not by anything you want to. Not by distance, for example. Distance doesn't matter. Yeah. Either you see it or you don't see it. If you see it, use your knowledge. If you don't see it, but there's someone who's reliable telling you, then you take his word. There's also something else you can take. You can take the Prophet's masjid, the Prophet's Qiblah. You can take the Prophet's Qiblah without any ijtihad. And you can take the, like at the Prophet's masjid.
Oh, if you see it.
Yeah, you're at the Prophet's masjid, alayhi salatu wassalam, yes.
Okay.
Or the old masjids. Shaykh Abdullah said that means like 300 years old. And the scholars have passed through these masjids over the centuries. Really said those 2 things. That's how I learned it. That's like how I learned it this way. Not only 300 years old. It's 300 years old and the scholars have passed through this one. Through the centuries. Then it became like mutawatir. If they approved it, yani. So either you see it or you don't see it. If you see it, you face it based on what you see. If you don't see it, then if you have someone telling you who sees it, you go his way. And if you don't, then you make your own ijtihad by the rules, the right way. And then if you don't have that, then what do you do? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then you imitate someone. Yani, what's the 4th step? That was the question. 4th step is to imitate someone. How are you going to be in that situation? Like you're blind. This case could be the case of a child. It's possibly the case of a child. Like just started praying. But determining Qibla is easy. A child can do it. You teach it to Boy Scouts, for example, and Girl Scouts. He says, so if I go to a random masjid and pray without making ijtihad, it's invalid. Yes. If it's not like we described. Correct. Or in other words, if you skip a step, your prayer is invalid. If you go right to option 4, your prayer is invalid. Immediately, unless you were one of them, unless you were a person who qualifies to go right to option 4, if you went right to option 4, your prayer is invalid. What's option 4? Just to follow someone else's way. And that one has to be knowledgeable and trustworthy. Yes, option 4 is imitate someone. And that one has to be knowledgeable and trustworthy. That's condition. Yep, that's what it means. Mimicking. Just to mimic another. If you just go into some musalla or whatever and just pray just like that, your prayer is not valid. Or you're out with some Muslims and then some people start praying in Jama'ah and you just, with no idea which way they're praying, you just assume they're praying the right way. You just follow them. Your prayer is invalid. This is no rule here. No. If the answer to this question is yes, means what I'm saying is not right. It's not about that. You have to follow the steps. There's 4 steps. You can't skip a step. He says so many people just usually ask which way is the Qibla and then they just follow whatever they're told these days. Yeah, that's what happens. So how would the blind person do? He relies on that person directing him. So that person will take his shoulders. Say, like this, pray. Or maybe he can tell by the way the line is. He can determine. But like if it's just by himself, someone will turn him. And for the child, you say, like this. And then he'll face the way you tell him to. Tayyib. I'm going to move on here if there's no more questions. Two, knowledge of the setting in of the prayer time, either by absolute certainty, by means of visual observation, or by conviction, by means of credible deduction. So knowing that the prayer time came in, that's a condition for the validity of the prayer. Or thinking that it came in. Knowing that it came in or thinking that it came in. Thinking that it came in, here I would reduce this word conviction. Maybe it's too strong. Confidence. He's confident that it came in. He thinks it came in. But conviction, just for me personally, I will reserve that for like when I talk about aqidah, I use the word conviction. And what's meant here is the dhann. The dhann. Yeah, someone might say conviction for dhann. I would probably reserve that for something else though. So, knowing that the prayer time came in, either by absolute certainty, that's really knowing. Absolute certainty here means actually really, truly in a literal sense knowing, by means of visual observation. Or by thinking that it came in, being confident that it came in. Same thing we talk about for Qiblah. This being confident about something is important. Yani, you have a range of perceiving something. And then there's rules also Something might be haram or permissible or obligatory based on this range I'm telling you. I'm going to tell you now. So there's knowledge. That means to know something as it is. So then it's, for example, going to be obligatory on you to face the Kaaba by that knowledge. After that, you have dhann. After ilm is dhann. Dhann, dha, noon. With shad on the noon. Dhann, D-H, underline, A-N-N. Dhann, that means thought. And what that means here is confidence. When we say confidence here, I'm giving you some, inshallah, broad words. When we say confidence here, we're meaning something that it's enough to make you act. It's enough to enable you to act. It's not definitive knowledge, 100%, but it's enough to make you act. So it's a confidence. Yani, you might be confident in your ability to do something. Maybe one is confident in his poetic ability. So he would try to challenge somebody. He would act based on his confidence. Or he wouldn't act for lack of confidence. Or fighting skill, for example. So, dhann is the confidence, not knowledge though. Because you might lose, you think you can win. You think you can win, but you might lose too. So, knowledge is one, ilm. Two is dhann, confidence. Or you can use other words too, like supposition or other words. But I'm just going to say confidence now. Huh?
What was that word again, Shaykh? After confidence?
Supposition. Supposition, that means you suppose. You suppose something.
Okay.
That's what suppose means. You suppose means like, if I were to give it more weight, then it's this way. But doesn't mean you're sure. Then you have, after that, doubt, shak. That's in the middle. It could go either way. Neither way is more clear for you. Neither way is more evident for you. He could be sitting or not sitting. He could be coming or not coming. Maybe he died, maybe he didn't die. That's doubt. That's not doubt in aqidah though. That's doubt in fiqh. In the aqidah, the doubt goes all the way up to anything less than 100%. Right now I'm telling you the doubt is 50-50. That's in fiqh. In aqidah, doubt is anything that's not 100%. So sometimes, like for example, maybe you doubt that there's something haram in this food here that's not meat. You don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. You're allowed to eat this here with the existence of this doubt. Then after that, there's skepticism. Skepticism's more than the doubt. Because doubt means could go this way or that way. Skepticism means I don't think so. But doesn't mean it's not like that. So this is relative. You're a skeptic about the issue. I'm not convinced. Yani, I think unlikely. But somebody else might have one. He might say, no, I suppose. Why are you skeptical? You should suppose. So that's when falsehood is more likely to the skeptic. And then the last one is jahl, ignorance. And the ignorance is two kinds. You have plain ignorance, or yani, yeah, just plain ignorance. That means not knowing something. Or it's just pure ignorance. Simply not knowing something. Then you have misconception. Misconception is when you don't know something and you don't know that you don't know. Because you could be ignorant and you know your ignorance, meaning you realize that you don't know. So then you don't know. And you do know that you don't know. And the misconception is when you don't know and you don't know that you don't know. So that's 5 levels there. Knowledge, confidence, doubt, skepticism, and ignorance. And subcategory under ignorance is misconception. So many things are based on in our religion are suffice with. So many things suffice with confidence, not more. So knowledge of the setting in of the prayer time by certainty, that's real knowledge. Or by confidence. He said, meaning you could be speaking about something thinking you know, but in reality you are speaking without a clue in reality. Yeah. Like the people who believe that God is a body. So they don't know, and they don't know that they don't know. Or the people who believe that the world has no beginning. It's basically like if someone believes that the human being is a creature that neighs. Human being is a creature that neighs. Neigh is the sound of a horse. If he has knowledge, he knows a human being is a walking, talking creature. If he has misconception, he might believe human being is a creature that neighs. Tayyib, such as the case of a person who has a wird, yani a habitual practice, a habitual worship, which he usually performs and knows that it will not be finished until after the onset of the prayer time. Meaning this wird is timed. And this timing became reliable. Every single time he finished this wird, after he prays Maghrib, he starts this wird, and by the time he's done, Isha is in. It's been consistent enough for him to rely on it. So then he relies on it. That's not knowledge. That's confidence. If your rooster crows every Fajr, and then one day your rooster crowed and you woke up, you could pray Fajr. It's permissible because you're confident that it's in. 3, for one to be Muslim, hence prayer is not valid if performed by a non-Muslim. He will be accountable for that, as you know. Surah Al-Muddathir. Ma salakakum fi saqar. The believers, they communicate with the kuffar in hell. Believers in paradise and the people in hell communicate with each other. The believers say to them, Ma salakakum fi saqar. What was it that led you to hell? Qalu lam naku minal musallin. They said, we didn't used to pray. Etc. Until the end of there. That's part of why they're punished. Tamyiz, mental discerning, i.e. the capacity to reason and discern. Here, reason doesn't mean complex reasoning. Yeah, subhanallah. The young child who did not attain these faculties is not mumayyiz, is not mentally discerning. And prayer is not valid if performed by non-mumayyiz. But really, tamyiz does not imply childhood. Tamyiz is general condition for childhood or adulthood, prepubescence or postpubescence. For a child to be considered mumayyiz, he or she, he must reach a stage at which he understands when addressed and is able to answer. There's no problem with using the masculine pronoun he. It means he or she, but just people who are not guided. And they were not linguists also. They came and they made a fuss. And they said, no, this is misogynist. It's not misogynist. It's just the language. To deem the prayer an obligation when it is obligatory, i.e., for the individual praying in obligatory prayer to know that it is obligatory. Even if he believes that all of it is obligatory, his prayer is valid. Therefore, if one were to deem it supererogatory, voluntary prayer, his prayer would not be valid. For one not to deem any of the prayer integrals that the Shafi'i scholars agreed to classify as obligations as recommended, such as reciting the Fatiha or Ruku', and this is Shafi'i school here, so that's why it says the Shafi'i scholars. So this statement doesn't apply in the Maliki school or another school. Not the rule, I'm talking about the statement. This statement's not talking about the rule. And to cover the awra, the nakedness or nudity, even if one were alone or in the dark, with what conceals the color of the skin. But there's details here. To cover the awra even if one were alone. Yes, that's Shafi'i school, that's an obligation, first of all. And we talk about prayer here. So I'm backing up out of prayer. To cover the awra, even if one were alone, not praying, he needs to cover his awra, even if he's in the dark. But if he's male, then he can just cover his private parts. And if it's female, then she'll cover between her navel and her knees. The male cover just his private parts is like if he had two cloths. One cloth comes down in the front and one cloth comes down in the back, and he has a string. And you could see the side of his thigh. This is enough. Some scholars said this is enough for public. Or in the dark. So he just said that to cover the awra as a condition for prayer. But even if one were alone, he has to cover in his prayer. And even not in the prayer, and he's alone, has to cover at least private parts if he's male, and between navel and the knees if he's female. Even if one were alone or in the dark, to cover with what conceals the color of the skin. So you gotta understand fiqh. The way the scholars talk, they're conveying to you the rules, the general universal rules. When they come with broad statements like that, then at least you ask yourself why it's broad like that. Why didn't he say with clothing? Why didn't he be more specific? because that's not the rule. The rule is with what conceals the color of the skin. So that means something else. It could be that when you heard that statement, that meant to you with clothing. It doesn't even mean that. See, how does person need to understand what's being said? Because what conceals color of the skin could be leaves, could be mud. What if the reason for removing the whole outfit is to cool down from heat? That's permissible. When we said that the person has to cover in privacy means when he has no reason to be naked or nude. It's haram. According to Shafi'i school, nudity without a reason is haram. Pointless nudity is haram.
Say it again.
According to Shafi'i school, pointless nudity is haram.
Go ahead, say it. I didn't hear you.
Yes. According to the Shafi'is, pointless nudity is haram in privacy.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So take the statement here. What's the rule here? If pointless nudity was haram, that means what? Means if you have a point, then it's not haram. If there's a reason for it, it's not haram in privacy. So that's it. I mean, Wafiq, if he has a reason, then he'll do it. If he doesn't have a reason, then he won't do it. They said for any reason, meaning it doesn't have to be an emergency. It just can't be pointless. You're welcome. Because you have here two things. Also very important to understand. There's something called haja. I'm going to call that errand. And there's something called darura. I'm going to call that urgent or emergency. So errand is less than urgent. Errand is like going to the store to get a bag of chips. So a person, he could be nude in private for an errand. Yeah, it means he has a reason. It's not urgent. It doesn't need an emergency. And I'm telling you this now so that you know also for other things. Sometimes you only need an errand. Something only needs to be at the level of an errand for you to be able to do it. Sometimes it needs to be urgent. Like at the doctor. You don't go to the doctor and it's not urgent and expose your aura. Cannot expose the aura. It's not urgent.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Now, we want to go to the doctor. They have an appointment of, let's say, prostate.
Yeah.
And it's at the doctor. And is that considered urgent?
It might be urgent.
It might be urgent.
That might be his case, Yani, if it's something he needs to take care of. So then, yeah. Mm. Yani, urgent doesn't mean life or death situation right now. But it's more than mere errand, though. So, with what conceals the color of the skin, could be a person is standing in a pond that's covered with moss. You can't see through that moss. So if he's naked under that, then his aura is concealed from you. Let's say that's up to his chest. It's up to his chest, and you can't see his aura from any direction. Not from any direction. And then he prayed a funeral prayer. That's valid. because funeral prayer doesn't require him to bend over and stuff. He can just stand there. His awrah is covered, and he fulfills all the conditions for his prayer. Provided that one cannot see the skin color through the cover in a normal distance where people sit to converse. Therefore, it is not sufficient if one is able to distinguish between dark and fair skin through a cover in such a setting. Yani, if you can see the difference between the light skin and the dark skin. Light skin and dark skin, some people, the back of their hands darker than the palm of their hand. So that's an example. Or, for example, the contrast of the nipple to the other part of the breast could be dark skin versus lighter skin. So if you can see the difference between the dark skin and the light skin through that, then it's not sufficient. The cover must conceal the entire body of a free woman, except her face and hands, because neither are part of the awrah. I want to stop here. We didn't finish this paragraph. We can start this from the top, inshallah ta'ala, next time. Do you have any question I can answer for you?